Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here on KRK Fox 16 Plus. I'm Ashley King, and we are coming to you live right now covering this breaking news of the Devil's Den double homicide. It's a story that has been making national headlines all week long, ever since Saturday when a couple was killed while they were hiking. And we are waiting for a press conference to begin in just a little bit. Police did make an arrest last night, and in about 30 minutes, a press conference is going to begin. They're going to give us an update about this case. And joining us live now is our reporter, Caroline Derby. She is there waiting for that press conference. So, Caroline, kind of bring us up to speed on this case.
Actually, definitely a lot of updates to come here in the next 30 minutes. We'll get more details as to what police know right now, but here's what we know at this moment. It all started Saturday afternoon. Clinton and Kristen Brink were hiking with their two daughters in Devil's Den State Park. They were on a trail out there. Their two daughters were with them. They're ages 7 and 9. Thankfully, they are okay. But Kristen and Clinton, they were murdered on that trail. This has sparked a manhunt for several days now. That couple had just moved here. That family had just moved here from South Dakota. They moved to the Northwest Arkansas area, out potentially exploring the area for the first time. Lots of unanswered questions there. But what we know is that yesterday, Arkansas State Police made an arrest. Andrew James McGann, he was arrested, and that wrapped up days of searching for a suspect, Ashley.
And so what do we know about that arrest that happened there with McGann?
A lot that we do know, a lot still unanswered, a lot to come, but what we do know, he's 28 years old, Andrew James McGann. He was a school teacher at the Springdale School District, and he had moved from different school districts from different states, ultimately ended up in the Springdale area. He was arrested yesterday at a hair salon. You may have seen some of that video circulating on social media of the arrest at a hair salon. I've reached out to the hairstylist as well as that salon to see if we can get that video to show you all. We're still waiting to hear back on that. But definitely a lot of twists and turns, 4 to 5 day manhunt looking for this suspect, an arrest at a hair salon, 28 years old. We, as of right now, we don't think, or police are saying that he didn't know the victims, but yeah, Ashley, still a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that a lot of people, right after this happened at a state park, so a lot of people were there at the state park during this time. What role did the public play in helping catch this suspect and figure out his identity?
Arkansas State Police told us yesterday that videos that were sent in by people were instrumental in identifying this suspect. If you think back to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you probably saw a sketch of someone. And then you also saw that photo of someone from behind. It didn't have a face in it, but it was a picture of someone from behind. That was sent out everywhere. Arkansas State Police said that they got tips from all over the country. One in particular I can think of right now, Washington State. People from across the country trying to help identify this suspect and help Arkansas State Police out. But definitely, you kind of saw this case unfold over the last several days. It started with what happened, then we got a sketch, then we got a picture, and as they were gathering all of that evidence, ultimately ended with an arrest.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, I think the main question people have is, why did this happen? Did they know each other? Do we have a motive? So what can you tell us about a possible motive?
We don't know yet, and that's something hopefully we find out at 2 o'clock. The motive, I think, is the big question here, and I know viewers have reached out to us. Was this random? Was this premeditated? Did he know the victims? There are a lot of questions that we hope to get answered at 2. Right now, motive, we don't know. Definitely, I will be asking that question if they don't go ahead and address it. We're going to be hearing from Colonel Mike Hager here at 2 o'clock. He's the director of Arkansas State Police, as well as from other law enforcement officials. A lot of people involved on this. Just thinking back to that press conference that took place last night, he applauded the law enforcement agencies involved in this, and thinking about how he mentioned, they hadn't shaved in a while, they barely had anything to eat, they haven't slept, they've really been working hard to try and make that arrest, hopefully to bring some justice to the Brink family.
There we go. Thanks for that, Caroline. All right. So let's see. We are learning more now about the suspect as well, Andrew James McGann. He is 28 years old. He is from Springdale. And we learned that he actually just moved to Northwest Arkansas from Oklahoma, actually. We learned that he was a teacher previously in Oklahoma in the Broken Arrow School District. That is right outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the district there, they released a statement. They said that he did pass the required background checks and before he was hired, and that he left on his own accord. We also learned, as we said, he just moved to Arkansas recently. And when he moved to Arkansas, he was working for the Springdale School District. School has not started yet. So the district said that while he was already hired, he has not started with the school district yet. And so he never met any students or any of their families or anything like that. But we do have another, one of our reporters I want to bring in right now, Mike Rogers. He is working on a story for later this afternoon. And Mike, your story is pretty interesting. Can you tell us a little about who you spoke with?
Yeah, I actually spoke with one of my good friends from growing up who was a high school rugby teammate of Andy McGann, as he referred to him. I guess he had known him the first couple of years playing high school football rugby at a place called Fenwick High School up in the Chicagoland area. He said he was a quiet guy, but by no means did not have any friends. Just didn't talk much, kept with himself, and he actually used to catch rides after school to be able to go to rugby practice with McGann. Was taking those trips daily with him over to the rugby pitch after school, and he talked about kind of how he was as a leader on that team. He said a guy that led by example, as we mentioned. Did say he didn't really talk much, but in speaking with him, as I'm sure everyone who may have known him he did not think he was capable of something like this.
That is very interesting. I was wondering what he said. What did he say about the type of person that he was in all of these years that he knew him?
He said he was relatively quiet and reserved, but they had those, friendly moments of joking around in the car, innocence. As all high school is. He just did not expect what had come of it, but called him, just an everyday guy, friendly. Even had no indication or prerequisites that this could have been, his ultimate fate, and but did send his condolences, to the victims. But yeah, just a lot of shock coming from states away following the story.
Yeah, this has been a national story. People all over the country have been following it, and I believe it's because of the connection there. So can you kind of, you mentioned he called him, he had a nick, or went by a different name than what we're referring to him as. Can you kind of catch us up to what it was like when he found out, his friend started texting the picture and he realized that this is somebody he grew up with?
Yeah, Pat had said that he was referred to as Andy McGann back in high school when they were teammates. And one of his friends actually sent him along the news headline and said, "Do you know this guy?" And he said from his nose up, I guess, was very discerning qualities, and he knew right away that it was Andy McGann, as he referred to him as. But he said, no indication really, obviously, growing up, that he would be capable of something like this. But he didn't exactly say they were friends, more so acquaintances, teammates, but certainly still taking in the news and shocked, as I'm sure so many are.
Yeah, definitely. So you've been on this story, covering this week for the most part. What has it been like when you've gone out to state parks? I know a lot of people have kind of been afraid because we don't know a motive yet.
Yeah, and at the time I was out at the state parks, we didn't even have a suspect yet. That was something I think that was really concerning to people that we spoke with this week. Just to think that are state parks a danger? And they definitely are not. I mean, they're some of the best qualities that Arkansas has is the natural beauty. But I think there was a little bit of ill discernment and a little people a little bit uneasy about visiting the state parks, knowing that something like this happened there.
Yeah, definitely. So again, we are standing by for a press conference. We are waiting for this press conference to start. Arkansas State Police, they will be giving us an update on what happened there on Saturday. So Saturday, this is when all of this happened around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Clinton and Kristen Brink, they were hiking with their two young daughters, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. And that is when they were attacked and ended up getting killed. And so a manhunt started immediately, police trying to find the suspect. They were putting out a sketch. We saw a picture of the back of the suspect as well. And then eventually we found out yesterday that they did actually arrest somebody for this case. And the person they arrested is Andrew James McGann. He's 28 years old. He is from Springdale, grew up, I guess, in the Chicago area from what Mike just found out, but he lives now in Springdale. He had moved here recently from Oklahoma. And something else about the victims. Let's talk a little bit about them for a bit. Clinton and Kristen Brink, they're 43 and 41 years old. They had their two daughters, of course. They had just moved to Arkansas as well. They just moved to Arkansas from Prairie Grove, moved to Prairie Grove, Arkansas, that is, from South Dakota. And I was reading some information earlier that Clinton, the husband, he was actually scheduled to start a new job soon. And he was going to start as a milk delivery worker for Highland Dairy there in Fayetteville. He was supposed to start on Monday. And he had transferred from Highland Dairy's parent company in South Dakota here to Arkansas. And so the Brink family, they did release a statement. I want to read that. They released this statement saying that the couple died heroes protecting their little girls, and they deserve justice. They will forever live in all of our hearts. And a family friend also told the Associated Press that the Brink family played volleyball, and that friend also described them as selfless and unconditional with their love and their support for their friends. So this is really just a tragic story, kind of scary a little bit as far as, not knowing a motive behind it. But Mike, I had your mic muted a little bit at the very beginning. So can we kind of rewind some just about the friend or the acquaintance who you interviewed earlier today? And you're going to have a story later on KRK and Fox 16 News later today, more of your interview with him. But tell us a little bit again about what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, he said total shock probably 10 times during the interview, because I think that's all that comes to mind when you see someone that you had gone to high school with and played sports with and were a teammate of and carpooled with do something of this magnitude. I mean, total shock. And he said he really hadn't kept up with him over the years after obviously people go their separate ways in college. But yeah, he said that he was actually sent along the headline and some of the news releases by one of his friends who also knew McGann. Said just obviously giving his condolences to the victims and the victims' families and their loved ones. But he did make it a very, very strong point that they were more acquaintances than they were friends back then. But they went to Fenwick High School, and apparently there were no athletic facilities on the campus for rugby. So the two used to get in those carpools every day and go over to the pitch together. Yeah. And I mean that's intimate time that you spend with someone for a long period of time. It definitely comes as a shock when something like this happens.
Can't even imagine. So again, we're waiting for that press conference to begin. And so, Mike, you covered the press conference last night that Arkansas State Police and the governor gave. Can you give us some updates on what they said last night during that press conference?
Yeah, in regards to last night's press conference, it was the governor along with several law enforcement officials that were, at the podium. We were out at State Police headquarters, and Governor Sanders and Secretary Hager, Secretary Lewis did deliver those updates on the investigation. It was kind of going on as we were going live, trying to balance everything that was said. But just giving an update on who this man was, where he was found, and it was more so state leaders telling the families that they're with them and sending those condolences, but also sending a strong message that this kind of senseless violence is not accepted in Arkansas, and Arkansas State Police and all of the agencies that were involved in this search are going to do their jobs and bring people who do break the law like that to justice.
Yeah, and they worked around the clock. I know Governor Sanders, she praised law enforcement for all of their days of work. Local, state, and federal all came together to try to find the suspect there. She said that, they're courageous, they're heroic, and thanked them for their tireless efforts. She's also asking everyone to lift up the Brink family in prayer as well as, they deal with this loss of that couple, and those two girls now deal with the loss of their parents. I can't even imagine, what that would be like at 7 and 9 years old to possibly have witnessed this happen. And so, again, we are waiting for this press conference to begin. It's going to begin in about 12 minutes now, 13 minutes now. And we are just hoping to learn some more information about a motive. We do know that the victims and the suspect, police said they didn't know each other. That's what they told us last night. So we're waiting to find out more information about that. We were online earlier looking, so he was arrested, Andrew James McGann. He was arrested at a hair salon. He was getting his hair cut at the time. And the hairstylist, she was posting about it on social media. I know our Caroline Derby's reached out to try to speak with her, but she did post some video as well of police afterward, collecting some of the hair samples that were on the ground or the floor and taking some pictures of the scene and stuff like that. So I can only imagine, too, how scary that might have been for the people who were in that hair salon as well. And so, again, we're waiting to get more information about how they were able to track him to that hair salon as well. From her post online, she was saying that he didn't want to give his name when he checked in, and she said he was very quiet as well. And so we are, again, just waiting to get more information about how all of that went down. Hopefully we will find out all that information in just a little bit.
And one thing I do hope they do address is, as the search was going on and as all this was coming in, they had said that McGann was possibly injured during.
That's right.
Following the attack. I mean, out there in rough terrain. So I'm curious to see if, obviously he was found in a location, but if there was any kind of, discerning limp or anything that, would have set anybody off, even just knowing that information.
Yeah, that is very true, too. I saw someone actually comment on the hairdresser's page, asking if he had any injuries on his hands or anything. So, that probably is something that, they are looking for. Also, let's see. So the information we know right now about Andrew James McGann is that he is 28 years old. He was living in Springdale at the time when he was arrested. He was arrested at a beauty salon yesterday around 5 o'clock in the Springdale area. He's currently in the Washington County Jail in Fayetteville. He will have his court appearance tomorrow. Right now, no bond has been set, so we are waiting for his court appearance to find out maybe more information there as well. He is charged with 2 counts of capital murder, and that is for the deaths of Clinton and Kristen Brink. They are a couple, 43 and 41-year-old couple who had 2 young daughters they were hiking there at the park when this happened. The other information we know about McGann is that he was a school teacher. That information actually started circulating real fast after he was arrested. And he was a teacher in Oklahoma for some time. The school district there says that he passed all of the required background checks and that he left on his own accord. And then he had just started teaching, or just got hired on by the Springdale School District, but had not started teaching yet. So,
and one thing we also got today is he had also taught in Louisville ISD, which is in Texas, and we got a statement from them today, basically just saying that he was a teacher at Donald Elementary School from 2022 through 2023. Okay. And they had communicated with students and families in the spring of 2023 that he was no longer going to be part of the school district after being placed on administrative leave, while the district, quote, investigated complaints of poor classroom management and poor professional judgment related to concerns about uneven treatment of students and displays of favoritism. Now, that came in from Louisville ISD.
Okay.
That being a school district in Texas, and that obviously sending their condolences to the families involved in this as well. But I mean, just kind of paints a little bit more of a picture about who McGann was, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We are learning more and more information about who he was. I know you are going to have your story later today on KRK and Fox 16 in our later newscast, talking about an acquaintance of his that knew him from when he was in Chicago. And again, that the Brink family, they're going to be going through a lot right now. I'm sure they are going through a lot right now as those two young girls are about to navigate life without their mother and father now. And, I am curious just about what they may have seen. I really hope they weren't there and hope they did not see, everything that possibly went down, since this was what was called an attack. But we hopefully will get more information. Again, we are waiting for that press conference. Our Caroline Derby is there right now. ASP is going to give us a press conference in about 8 minutes now. But what we know, again, is that this family, the Brink family, they had just moved to Arkansas. A lot of people, when you move to a new place, you go explore, right? You go out to a park and see what's going on out there. And that's pretty much what they were doing. I know you're newer to Arkansas as well. So I'm sure you've probably explored some outdoor facilities since you've been here too, and that's kind of the last thing you expect to happen, right?
No, it absolutely is. And I mean, it just seemed like such a secluded area, and doing the most leisure of activities, going on a walk with your family, and to for something so tragic like this to happen. Very curious to see what they say and kind of fill in the blanks about there's still a lot of unknowns in what exactly happened. I'm hoping that the officials that are going to be speaking today can kind of tell us more about what exactly happened with the attack. Was it premeditated at all? Was it
surprise?
Opportunity. Yeah, an opportunity attack. And I think it's a lot more that we're going to be learning as we've learned much more about McGann's background.
Yes, we have.
Wanting to know why he did it.
Yeah. Did you, when you were out at the state parks locally, did anybody talk about how they're changing? Some of what they're doing while they're out there to keep themselves safe?
Not exactly. No, a lot of families just the one family I spoke with, it was a father, a mother, and their 3 children. They basically said, if anything were to happen, first and foremost, they're going to protect their kids. And obviously, the Brink family, we can discern did that, being that their children survived this attack. But, families were saying that, we're going to keep their head on a bit of a swivel, just in light of the news, something that you never want to think about when you're out hiking. But, unfortunately, the world we live in. Yeah,
that's actually good advice in general when you're out. Just kind of, be vigilant of your surroundings in general in today's society. But another interesting aspect of this case is that police asked for the public's help in trying to find the suspect, and that's how they were able to get that image that we saw, the back of him, and that's how they were able to help try to get a sketch. We got a car description as well. But something very interesting from that press conference last night is that police are also saying that they got tips from all over, and they're saying that some of the tips or some of the information that was put out by bloggers, they said it kind of jeopardized their investigation a little bit. So that is something to keep in mind, as we're in this digital age right now where, everybody has a phone, everybody has cameras, everybody's always recording and streaming things. We got doorbell cameras, just kind of keeping some of that information, close to the vest and just with police if you do have any tips and stuff like that.
And it kind of very similar to that saga of the Grant Hardin escape. There was a lot of tips coming into law enforcement almost daily. And, we would reach out about the tips, but that's all they are at the end of the day is just tips, certain sightings that people were saying they saw him in Missouri when he wound up being just less than a mile away from the prison. So, I mean, the officers and everyone, all these investigators are having to deal with so much information that is coming in just in bounds. And, thankfully they were able to find him, and hopefully some of these tips did help.
Yeah, definitely.
His capture.
Yeah, we definitely hope so. So, it is, again, let's see, it is about 1:55 right now. This press conference is set to begin in about 5 minutes or so. And our Caroline Derby, again, she is there where the press conference is happening at Arkansas State Police headquarters here in Little Rock. We are hoping to, get some answers to some of these questions we have. I've had friends reach out from, across the country asking, what was the motive? I think that is what a lot of people really just want to know. And so hopefully can get some of those questions answered. I know Caroline said she will be asking police that question as well if they don't answer that automatically. But again, we are waiting to find out more information about how they were able to track down Andrew James McGann to this as a suspect. And he was arrested. He is currently in the Washington County Jail in Fayetteville. And he is awaiting his hearing that is scheduled for tomorrow. We will, of course, cover that for you as well because you've said this is a national thing that a lot of people have been wanting to know about. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break right now. I believe we're going to take a quick break. I'm trying to see what's going on the computer over here. All right, so we're going to keep going until we can get to this press conference again. We're just going to keep talking a little bit until we can get to the press conference in about, hopefully in about 3 minutes or so. But what we do know, again, is that this all started Saturday when Clinton and Kristen Brink, they went hiking. They were hiking at Devil's Den State Park with their 2 young daughters, and then they were attacked. Police said they were attacked, and thankfully their daughters, they were not injured during this attack. And they had just moved to Arkansas from South Dakota. Clinton, he had just got a job as a milk delivery driver with Highland Dairy, and he was working for their parent company, which is in South Dakota, and they had just moved, and he was about to start his job on Monday before this happened. And the Brink family, they put a statement out saying that the couple died heroes protecting their little girls and that they deserve justice. So, hopefully the family is starting to feel some of that justice. I know that we also did hear yesterday in that press conference that the family, they were the first people to be notified about the suspect being arrested. So I'm sure hopefully that gives them some type of closure while we continue to follow this story. But again, that press conference is beginning in about 2 minutes now. What we do know, we've been gathering information all morning today about Andrew James McGann and his past. I know, Mike, you mentioned some acquaintances called him Andy. That's how they referred to him back then?
Yeah, Andy and that nickname Gator, I guess. And
Gator.
Yeah.
Did he
Gator.
explain that nickname?
I think it was just a rugby thing.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
and Pat did tell me that there was something very. He said he kind of had a 1,000-yard stare, which I thought was kind of interesting. And seeing the mugshot today, it kind of paints a little bit of a picture to that.
It does, yeah, definitely. And so we hopefully we'll get some more information soon. Our Caroline Derby, again, she's standing by. We are waiting to for this press conference to begin and hopefully learn more information. What we do know about McGann, though, quickly after the arrest, people were on social media, sharing pictures about him being a teacher previously. I believe it was a 5th grade teacher that he was in Oklahoma. You mentioned in Texas as well, he was a teacher, and he had just gotten hired on here in Springdale. And so the Springdale district did put out that statement again saying he had not met with any students or any families as, school had not started yet. So, again, we're waiting on that press conference and hope to get some more information about this case. And, the governor, she said that law enforcement, they've been working around the clock. They worked around the clock to try to apprehend this suspect there. And so I believe Caroline, she's doing a live shot right now on our TV. I'm actually going to pull up her microphone real quick and see if we can hear her, what she's saying.
Park. Kristen and Clinton Brink were killed. Their 2 daughters were their ages 7 and 9. Thankfully, their daughters are okay. But here in just a couple of minutes, we'll be hearing from Arkansas State Police and other law enforcement officials, hopefully bringing more details, answering a lot of those questions that the public has right now.
All right, there. That was Caroline there talking. I believe she's talking with our anchors on our TV stations right now, doing a cut-in right now. Catching everybody up, we're streaming here on KRK Fox 16 Plus, as well as online on Fox 16 and KRK.com as well. And again, we're wanting to know more information, hoping that we can get to a possible motive. We do not know if McGann even spoke with police at all, said anything after he was arrested. So that is something we are also waiting to find out. But again, so you've been on this story all week long to finally see a resolution. I imagine people probably are breathing a sigh of relief at some of these state parks finally. But we have, okay, let me see. So again, yeah, we are waiting again. What we know, again, it all started on Saturday. So this was afternoon, taking a hike, when most people, what they do on a Saturday afternoon with their family when they move to a new location. Clinton and Kristen Brink, they were 41 and 43 years old. They have a 7 and 9-year-old daughters. Those daughters were with them hiking, and thankfully they were not harmed when the hike started. Okay, it looks like they are walking out right now, so we're gonna go ahead and see if we can pull up this audio some and see what they have to say.
I'm Colonel Mike Hager, Director of the Arkansas State Police and Secretary of Department of Public Safety. Appreciate you guys coming out this afternoon. We're gonna just kind of go through some bullet point information, and I'm sure it's going to spawn a lot of questions. We're going to try to answer as many of those questions as we can. Want to introduce our partners. Well, actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we do have our two deputy directors, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Kennedy and Lieutenant Colonel Jason Aaron, that are with us, and I believe the rest of the people behind me will speak, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I want to start by thanking our investigators. It's hard to express the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into an investigation like this. You could see it on their face when we walked into headquarters last night and had the opportunity to see them, talk to them, thank them in person at the culmination of this. They're absolutely exhausted. They put every bit of their heart and soul into this investigation to get this suspect brought into custody and taken off the streets, and I cannot thank them enough for that. Also want to thank our law enforcement partners. We are truly blessed in Arkansas. It's not always common, and that's unfortunate, but we have a relationship with our state, local, and federal counterparts that's second to none. There was an incredible amount of cooperation and collaboration that went into this investigation. No part is less than any other's part. There's a total package that has to be looked at, has to be investigated, and these groups work together in a very impressive way, and we can't thank them enough. Not just on this case, but in every case that we work within state police. To have that partnership with them is really valuable. I want to thank the public for providing images and videos from cell phones, home, and business security footage that directly advanced this investigation. We'll talk a little bit more about how that played out, but the information that was put out and the request for information back from the public directly resulted in this person being brought into custody. It allowed our investigators a starting point to move forward and to use their skills that they've developed over the years and their experience to bring this person into custody. We had about 500 tips that came in through our phone lines, social media. Not only were there a lot of tips that came in, and we're very thankful for that, but there's a lot of people that have to field those tips. And it's not all badge-wearing, gun-toting members of the state police or Department of Public Safety. We had a lot of civilian personnel that were tasked with that. There was a lot of time and energy spent on triaging those tips and making sure they went to the right people. And so we owe a great gratitude for that support staff that helped with this as well. Although everyone is innocent until proven guilty, we did confirm this morning that our suspect's DNA has been a positive match to the DNA that we suspected to belong to our suspect at the scene. During an interview with investigators, the suspect indicated that he did commit these murders. We executed a search warrant at his residence. There were articles found there that are consistent with being involved in this particular crime, and I will let Major Rhodes speak more of that, or more to those details. We do believe he acted alone. We have absolutely no reason to believe that there's anyone else involved, and we do not anticipate any future arrest or any other arrest beyond this suspect. I'm going to go ahead and pass off to Major Stacy Rhodes. She can walk through a little bit more of the information, and I'll return to the podium and we'll answer any questions we can. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon. As he indicated, I'm Major Stacy Rhodes. I oversee the Criminal Investigation Division for the State Police. And I kind of want to walk you through how we initiated and progressed through our investigation. So, as you all know, we responded to a call for service at the state parks. Two young children were found and indicated that something had happened to their parents on the trail. That initial information that came from the kids gave us our first starting point, which was a description of a suspect. There was another witness at the park that we encountered that gave us additional information about the suspect and a particular vehicle that he was seen leaving the park. With that, we took the information, completed and let me kind of, we'll start there. So from there, we had a pretty good description of our suspect. We did our initial release. Other witnesses came forward that were on the trail during the time that the murders occurred that did not see the murders, but brought forth video footage, photographs that they had taken on their day trip to the park. From that, we obtained a photo. We interviewed witnesses and were able to compile a composite sketch of what we believed our suspect looked like. With that, we received dozens and dozens of tips. With the initial vehicle information that we received, it being a black sedan, one of the initial descriptions was that it was sporty. From that, we received well over 5 or 6, close to 10 videos of this particular car from homes and businesses along the routes in and out of the park. So we were able to ascertain a pretty good description of this vehicle. So with that vehicle information, that became critical in identifying our suspect. So with the photos, or the tips that came in with the composite and the photo, as the Colonel said, we received over 500 tips. And initially we were using the names and information to come out to compare with, did they have black vehicles? Did they meet a certain criteria of vehicles? But as we began to hone in on the vehicle, it became clear that it was a Kia Stinger. And we used that information to vet various owners. And our suspect was identified, and with that we sought him out and we located him at a local barber shop there in Springdale. We took him into custody, and with that we spoke to him, and he made statements indicating that he had committed these heinous acts. And our job didn't stop there. We executed a search warrant on his house and also on the vehicle. We are still waiting a lot of testing at the crime lab. But as the Colonel said, DNA that was recovered at the initial crime scene matched his DNA that we pulled last night. Colonel, or I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Carter. I'm the prosecuting attorney for Washington County, Arkansas. The first thing I want to say here today is that my thoughts are with the Brinks family. There are 3 girls who tragically lost their parents in this case. And although today is a good day for law enforcement, there's a shadow over it because of the tragedy that occurred on Saturday. I want to commend the state police for the work they did in this case. I couldn't be more proud to be an Arkansan today. I couldn't be more proud to be a resident of Northwest Arkansas right now, and am confident and satisfied with the work that law enforcement did in this case. Especially, I want to note the cooperation I saw between local agencies in this case. I could name them all off, but I have a list here of 7 to 9 agencies that worked hand in hand to quickly solve this crime, and I commend every law enforcement officer that worked on this case. I also commend any member of the public that provided us information that led to the solving of this crime. I want the public to know that they're safe. The defendant in this case is innocent until he's proven guilty, but I'm confident that we have the right defendant in this case and that the public need not worry going forward. Someday they're going to open Devil's Den State Park, and I'll be on the trail myself when that happens. The defendant will be spending time in Washington County Circuit Court over the course of the coming days. It is my intention to use the full weight of my office to bring this defendant to justice for the Brinks family.
Before we open for questions, just want to touch real briefly on something that gets lost in this sometimes, and that's the family story. We've spoken to the family quite a few times over the last several days, and what we heard consistently is what a loving mother and father they were, loving husband and wife that they were towards each other. They absolutely protected those girls to their fullest extent, to the point that it cost them their lives. We're in awe of this mom and dad. We're also in awe of these girls. The information that they were able to provide to start us down this path, to be able to make this arrest, it all started with those 2 little girls. It's incredible. We also don't want to forget that there was a 3rd sister. Thankfully, she was not with the family on the trail that day, but she suffered just as tragic of a loss, and we need to keep that in mind. Because of that, I would plead with you and the public to please be sensitive to the fact that there's a family that's grieving. It's hard to express, because I can't understand it, what they're going through. Misinformation hurts. Speculation hurts. When they read things, when we talked to them earlier today, they expressed that to us, that they're reading things in social media. They're reading things that are just simply not true. People are speculating. They're talking about things that are not factual, and it hurts. There's no place for that. Along those lines, we have to be very careful in an investigation to be calculated in the amount of information that we put out and when we put that out. I can tell you that this investigative team had one mission and one mission only, and that was to put hands on this suspect and to get him off the streets. And on a daily basis, we got together and we talked about what we felt like that we could put out to the public and what was going to be advantageous for us in the investigation and what could potentially be detrimental. One thing that we did not want to do is put information out that was going to take attention away from someone that we needed to look at. You have to remember all the information that we're working off of started with 2 little girls that witnessed the most horrific thing that you could ever imagine. That was the base of everything that we had. So we had to be careful about relying solely on that information. We had to collaborate that. We're also working in an environment that is half a mile into the woods. So by the time that we get the information from these little girls, and then we collaborate that with members from the public, they can talk, or they can, give us further information based on the suspect description and things like that, and then that leads us to a vehicle, and then that leads us somewhere else. This is not an episode of CSI. It's not going to be wrapped up in a 1-hour episode. It takes hours and hours to develop that information, corroborate that information, and know that it's good information, and know that it's something that we can put out. The last thing that we want to be responsible for is putting information out that's going to hinder the investigation or hinder someone's their likelihood of calling us and putting us onto a suspect that we need to be looking at because it didn't meet all the markers that we thought it should meet. So I hope you can be understanding of that, and I hope as we move forward from here that the speculation and a lot of the talk and a lot of the chatter, especially on social media, that people will be very sensitive to that. This family's been through enough, and they don't deserve to be victimized any further than they already are. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Colonel?
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on what was the reason behind this? What was the motive for this? Was this random, or what happened there? And what was the cause of death? How were they killed?
Yeah. As far as the motive is concerned, it's part of the investigation. It's two parts. The first part of the investigation is always going to be to identify and apprehend the suspect. The second part of the investigation is a lot of the whys and a lot of the details. That's still a part of the investigation. I can tell you that we have no reason to believe that there was any known association between our suspect and our victims. There's nothing to indicate that at all. It appears to be a completely random event. As far as the weapon that was used, it was a knife. Our victims died by stab wounds. Yes, ma'am.
We've spoken to a few parents from students who he was their teacher in different states, and they all kind of gave the synopsis of perhaps he was a predator. Their children felt like he preyed on younger age girls during his time teaching in those states. We were wondering, have you been exploring any connections to the crimes that Megan may have been connected with, and any indication that this was his first time committing this? Was he after those girls? Were those his target?
From what we know right now, we have no indication to suggest that the girls were his target.
This was his first time, but he just went to that one time that day. I heard potentially somebody suspicious could have been there the weekend before. Was he just that first time at the park, or do you think he was laying out and calculating?
Honestly, that would be pure speculation on my part. Now that we have our suspect in custody, there's going to be a part of the investigation that's going to go back, and they're going to look at timelines, and they're going to look at kind of his movements leading up to that. And hopefully that will give us all a better picture of why he did this, how long he had planned this, things like that. But right now, that's all part of the investigation, and it would simply be speculation on our part.
I believe he was injured as well. Can you elaborate on that? During the attacks?
Yes, he was injured. I do not know the specifics of those injuries. I do know that his injuries resulted in blood loss, and it was that blood loss that allowed us to establish a DNA profile to begin with, and it was that DNA profile that was matched today against our suspect.
I would assume that's any loving parent trying to do whatever they could to protect their loved ones.
Absolutely. I would say you're correct. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned some articles found in the house. What was found?
Stacy.
So if you'll remember the photo that was of the back of our suspect, we did find items that were consistent with what was seen in that photograph.
Was the weapon there?
Well, we don't know that it's the weapon, but we did collect some knives from the residence. We won't know until we test it, obviously.
The arrest itself, did he resist? Was he easygoing? What did that look like?
No, he was completely cooperative.
Can you speak on the terrain, the area that the victims were found in regards to the girls getting to safety to get help? What kind of time frame that would look like for two girls? Was it a rough terrain? Was it something that, another person found them within an hour, or can you speak on that?
So I don't know that we can speak on to the time frame, but the terrain was what you would see in a typical park. I don't know that it was particularly rugged, but it had some inclines. It was fairly maintained, but it was, our estimation was about a half a mile into the park. So you can imagine how long that would take to get out.
We had heard reports. Can you confirm that the father was stabbed first, the mother took the kids back into the car for safety, went back to help her husband, and then she died too?
So the information that we have is that the husband was attacked first. The mother did not return all the way to the car with the kids. We believe that the mother took them to safety and then returned to help her husband.
I know you all said that the suspect, I believe, indicated that he had committed these acts. Any more specifics on what he may have said since his arrest?
We're not going to comment on that at this point. It wouldn't be fair to the continuing investigation.
And then I assume this would be for maybe more the prosecuting attorney, but do you know yet if you'll pursue the death penalty in this case, or what kind of consequences you might seek?
This case certainly has the aggravators that exist where a jury should get to decide what the punishment for this defendant is. It is my intention to pose that to a jury. So the state will not be waiving the death penalty in this case.
Have family members said that they want you to seek the death penalty?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Did he indicate he plans to plead guilty to this?
Defendant's innocent until proven guilty. At arraignment, I anticipate he will plead not guilty, as is custom. I don't know that there's a defense attorney in the United States of America that would allow a defendant to appear at their first appearance and plead guilty. So it is much, much too early to visit about that.
Has he indicated he's going to seek a public defender as a private attorney or anything like that?
I'm not aware that a private attorney has been retained yet. If he can't afford a private attorney, I anticipate our local public defender's office will be appointed.
I know that y'all spoke that Devil's Den will be closed for the time being. What about other state parks and the concerns of family and tourists?
Yeah, as far as the question of the state parks being open, I would ask that you send that to Secretary Shea Lewis and his team. I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know what the decision is on that at this point. As far as the safety of our public visiting those state parks, I would say it's absolute as it can be. I mean, it's not like we have a pattern of people being assaulted or attacked in our state parks. You're probably much more likely to be assaulted getting gas at a convenience store on the way home if you look at statistics. So to echo the prosecutor's comments, I would not hesitate to go to a state park today.
I know you're still looking into it, Stacy, but have you found any more information about background? Last night, you recently moved to the Springdale area. Do you have more information you can share? And just informed about the Springdale School District, what else can you tell us?
So, I don't have a whole lot. Some of that we will look into. I can just tell you that we found that he lived in Texas and also Oklahoma and had recently moved here and had taken employment as a teacher. It doesn't sound like he was ever an actual teacher in Arkansas, but that he was a teacher in other locations. Right now we're completely focused on our case here, and we haven't explored any of that background investigation. I fully expect that other jurisdictions will probably reach out to us to see if they have any, if there are cases throughout the U.S. that may be connected to him. I fully expect that.
As of right now, he's the only suspect. He's not suspected of any other incidences here in our area.
That's correct. Not that we've been made aware of, that's for sure.
Recently, moved here a few weeks ago, a few months.
I believe it's been a few months. Yes, sir.
Major, can you clarify? You say you made statements indicating that he had killed them. Did he flat out confess, or what exactly did he say?
So I was not actually in the room when he was confession, so I'm not going to speak to, I certainly don't want to get that wrong, but just know that he did indicate that he had committed the murders.
Would you I guess, would you call it a confession, or you don't know? For sure?
I would call it an admission.
Does the suspect have any sort of criminal history that you all know of?
No, he did not. Not any adult criminal history that we've been able to find, for sure.
Did he indicate why Springdale's not that far from the state park, any indication why he, for 5 days, stayed so close to the scene, or was he planning on fleeing the area or the state at some point?
There was no indication that he was going to flee the area. He actually had a residence in Springdale, so that's why he was in the area. But he gave it doesn't sound like he was making any attempts to conceal. He didn't conceal his car or any of those things. Yes, ma'am?
Any history of mental illness?
Not that we know. We're still exploring. We just took him into custody last night, so we're still, vetting a lot of the information that we don't know about him to this point.
How did police pinpoint him at the barbershop?
Good old-fashioned police work.
Was there any technology used or that aided in the investigation?
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, were there any license plate readers or anything that gave a tip to where he was at that point in time? Or
I'll just say this, that there's rarely a case that we work that doesn't include those types of things, so we used everything. When I say that it was all hands on deck and there was no stone left unturned, it involved all of those technological aspects.
With the high volume of tips that came in, can you elaborate on how you sort of knew which ones to look into?
So we had a really good filtering system, and we are aware initially there were some issues with tips and the phone system that we had in place at that time. Once we implemented the tips line, we had a team around the clock filtering through those, and we had a pretty good matrix of the ones that we would push to the top and the ones that we would term a lower priority. So it's, but most of, if we got indication that it involved video, photographs, a first-hand account at the park, those were our priorities.
I understand that every case is different, but you went years investigated divorce crimes. Is this typical, a random crime like this, and a person goes back and gets a haircut in the same car?
Nothing about this case is what I would call conventional. In my 27 years that I've been with the state police, this is probably one of the most heinous that we've had, especially the aspect of just how random it was. It's when we were talking last night in the command center that it was every agent's worst nightmare, because in a typical investigation we use what we call victimology, and you can usually kind of pinpoint something that a victim has done or the circumstances they're in, whether it's a domestic violence or just drug related. You can typically narrow down your suspect pool. We had no way to do that in this case, so it made it particularly difficult, and what makes the work by our agents so extraordinary. Yes, ma'am.
Was the suspect trying to change his identity at all?
We don't have any indication that he was doing that. He was obviously getting a haircut. but you could chalk that up to school starts next week. So, but he didn't indicate he was trying to alter, that I'm aware of, that he was trying to alter his identity.
And you all mentioned that he was cooperative when you got to the barber shop. Any other initial reaction from him when you all showed up? Anything you could tell us?
That's probably best that I not discuss that so early in the investigation to this point.
Can you speak on the role of social media in helping bring about the rest of this?
I will say that social media did nothing to help our investigation. I would say that it absolutely hindered our investigation. As you heard the Colonel mention, the hurt and the just the emotional toil that social media gave to that family. It's so easy to be that keyboard warrior and question everything that law enforcement is doing. And I would just simply say that let us do our job. If you've got a tip, give it to us. Don't spread it on social media unless you're an expert. And if you're an expert, you're probably not on social media.
One of the first details that you all put out about the car was there's tape covering the license plate. Was that the case with his vehicle, and any reason why? Was he trying intentionally to cover up the license plate?
Yes, he did use tape to conceal some of the things that would help identify his vehicle. Yes, ma'am. There are indications, I mean, you know, everyone speculates that he took there was a lot of thought that went into this to conceal his identity. I will say that, but on the other side of that, he was also very sloppy. So whether he committed something else, we don't know, but we are certainly going to explore that.
How long between when you determined that he was the suspect that you were looking for and when you made the arrest? How long did that take?
Within the hour.
How long in between when he began questioning until he confessed?
I don't know that, I'm sorry.
I think we're just going to take a couple more questions. Anyone else?
Can you speak on which agencies and how many officers are involved?
Oh, so in any agency that I missed, the Colonel may have included this. I can tell you that the FBI was instrumental, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, the Fayetteville Police Department, just about every agency up there, the Benton County Sheriff's Office with their flock cameras, the Park Service, the Game and Fish. Who am I leaving out? Springdale, absolutely instrumental. They had a detective embedded with us from the very beginning, and anybody else? And just dozens of detectives that were all hands on deck, working round the clock to make sure that we made an arrest. The community deserved that, and that's what we gave them.
And moving forward, the different agencies in supporting these kids, I mean, loss of both of their parents, if there's anything that you want to touch on.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
I said moving forward and supporting the kids after the loss of their parents, like if there's anything that you want to say on that with the different agencies that are involved.
Colonel, you probably better answer that question.
I'm not sure if I understood the question exactly, but I can tell you that Governor Sanders has been in contact with the family multiple times. She's expressed the absolute heartbreak of the state, the support and the prayers that that family will receive, not only from her and her family, but from the state of Arkansas. In addition to that, she's made available any resource that family needs during this recovery process from state agencies, whether that be law enforcement or other type of support agencies. I can also tell you from someone myself that has spoken with the family multiple times, they're an incredibly strong family, and they have a very, very strong family support in place. I have no doubt that those three girls are going to be well taken care of, and they're going to get everything they need from that family. And they also know that if they have a need that we can assist with, we being the state of Arkansas, any type of state public entity, then we will absolutely do that.
Lastly, I know while the investigation is ongoing, you're conducting an internal review and see could things be done better, call transfers and information bureau, at least am I correct in something like that?
Yes, we will always, after any significant incident, we'll debrief it and we'll look at what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could do better. I can tell you from our vantage point right now, it's hard for me to be critical of anything that our investigators did. You know this. I know these guys. I know our capabilities. But you forget, honestly, until you see it play out. You see the level of expertise and skill. Cannot say enough about our investigators, and not only the skill set that they use to bring this suspect to justice, but just they put everything into it, their heart and soul. I mean, it was an impressive thing to watch, and so of what we could do better, I'm sure there'll be things. Y'all have heard me say it before. Our agency is comprised of human beings, and we're always going to make mistakes, and there's going to be things that we can fine tune. But from my vantage point right now, I have nothing but gratitude and respect for our investigators and the way this was handled.
Colonel, one more question. Can you confirm when you spoke to him after the arrest that this was not, he didn't know them, he didn't know the family at all, this was just a pure accidental coincidence that he targeted them?
I can confirm that, and again, as Major Rhodes said, I was not present for the interview, and I've not listened to the interview yet. But I can confirm that we have absolutely no indication, no reason whatsoever to believe that there was any connection at all between our suspect and our victims.
I've got one more. Can you elaborate on the role that the FBI and federal law enforcement held in the investigation?
Yeah, so the first thing I can tell you is how blessed we are with their partnership. The prosecutor and the major both mentioned all the agencies that were involved. What's always nice about that is they don't wait on us to call them. As soon as this was known, as soon as it was made public, honestly, I don't know how they found out as quick as they did. My phone started ringing off the wall from our special agent in charge of FBI in Little Rock, from the sheriffs in the northwest part of Arkansas, the police chiefs in that area, HSI, you name it, just about every agency that you can think of immediately reached out to us for any support that we needed. I cannot specifically tell you what roles they played, but I can tell you that they played significant roles. There was, as the Major alluded to, there's part of the investigation that is looking at this from the standpoint that it's completely random. There's another part of the investigation that has to close the loophole of is there a connection at all between our suspects and our victims. And unfortunately in this case, our victims had recently moved here. Their origins are from California. They, I believe, lived in North Dakota most recently. So there's a lot of geographical space and a lot of people that had to be talked to. And we leaned heavily on not only our state and local partners, but other state and local, and absolutely our federal partners.
I'm just curious about the communication challenges out there. I know you can't get cell service when we go out there.
Right.
How much did that affect the response, and how did that affect the investigation?
Yes. The answer to that question is yes. It was very challenging. The fact that we did not have cell service and our investigators didn't have cell service, that other campers on the trail didn't. So, again, it kind of goes back to the type of information that was coming in, the amount of information that was coming in, and the time lapse of the information that was coming in. It all factored in. To say this is an unusual crime scene, an unusual crime in just about every aspect, it was extremely challenging. And all of those things came into play, from lack of cell service to the terrain itself.
I think one more. We're gonna wrap up.
Yes, ma'am.
Are the kids enrolled in anywhere near the school that he was going to teach at?
I don't know the answer to that. I know the kids are with family right now, but I don't know the answer to that. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, you were just listening in there to the press conference that Arkansas State Police gave of the Devil's Den double homicide. And the major takeaways that I believe we learned from this is that they gave us a timeline of what they believe happened. Police said that they believe the suspect attacked the father first. The mother got their daughters to safety and then went back to help her husband, and that's when she was attacked as well. We were told that they were attacked with a knife and that they died from being stabbed to death. The victim's daughters, as well as a witness in the area, they were able to give a description to police, and that got their investigation, really kicked off their investigation there. They gave a description of the suspect as well as the vehicle they believed he was in. Now, early on, police said that they believed he was in a four-door Mazda, but we learned today that they actually identified that suspect vehicle as a Kia, and that let them narrow down the potential suspects. Police then were able to track that car to that hair salon where the suspect was arrested. They said that he cooperated when he was arrested, and after his arrest, he did indicate that he committed the homicides. They also said they got search warrants for his apartment or his house where he was living and his car as well, and they're waiting for confirmation, but they do believe that they collected the clothing or some items that were seen in that photo that they released, the photo of the back of him that they released early on. They do believe that they recovered some items from there, so they're still waiting for confirmation of that. They also said that we learned that he had some type of injury on him from the situation that happened at the park there, and they said he did leave behind blood. The suspect did leave behind blood, and they believe the suspect's DNA matches that blood that was left behind there. So the big thing I know a lot of people were still asking about is a motive, and police right now do not have a motive into why this happened or why this suspect possibly committed these homicides, but they do say that there is no indication that the suspect knew the victims. And they do say that they do not also believe that there are any other people involved and that the suspect did act alone. So they are reassuring people that the parks are safe and that they are still not sure why this couple was targeted, but they do not believe that there are any other people out there who could be targeting random people like this. But again, that's the major information that we learned today. Again, they have arrested Andrew James McGann, 28-year-old, just recently moved to Springdale. He was a teacher in that area, but had not started working yet. And we, of course, are going to continue to follow this story and all of the latest developments. You can always stick with us here on KARK Fox 16 Plus. You can also follow us on KARK.com, Fox16.com. We will have the very latest on KARK News at 4, as well as Fox 16 News at 5:30. So be sure to watch all of our newscasts and follow along as well online, and we will have all the information there. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and have a good afternoon.